Grateful for peace and order, the French people approved Napoleon becoming consul for life in 1802. Yet ambition burned bright. When a royalist plot was uncovered in 1804, Napoleon used it to justify a final step. A plebiscite overwhelmingly approved the establishment of the hereditary empire. On December 2, 1804, in a magnificent ceremony at Notre Dame Cathedral, Napoleon crowned himself Emperor of the French, taking the crown from the hands of Pope Pius VII and placing it on his own head, a symbolic gesture of supreme power derived from the people and his own will. The Peace of Amiens proved fragile. Britain, alarmed by Napoleon's consolidation of power in Europe and refusal to open continental markets, declared war in May 1803, beginning the Napoleonic Wars proper. Napoleon massed his Army of England at Boulogne, planning an invasion. To protect his flank, he sold the vast Louisiana Territory to the United States in 1803. However, the Royal Navy's command of the sea, confirmed decisively by Nelson's victory at Trafalgar, October 21, 1805, destroyed the French and Spanish fleets and made invasion impossible. Napoleon swiftly turned his formidable Grande Armée eastward against the newly formed Third Coalition, Britain, Austria, Russia, Sweden. In a campaign of breathtaking speed and maneuver, Napoleon surrounded and captured an entire Austrian army at Ulm, October 1805. He then marched into Austria and occupied Vienna. On December 2, 1805, the first anniversary of his coronation, Napoleon achieved his greatest victory at Austerlitz against the combined Austro-Russian army. Using cunning tactics, he lured the enemy into attacking his seemingly weak right flank, then smashed their center with a devastating counterattack. The Battle of the Three Emperors shattered the Third Coalition. The Treaty of Pressburg, 1805, removed Austria from the war, dismantling the Holy Roman Empire. Napoleon now dominated Central Europe. He established the Confederation of the Rhine, a grouping of German states under French protection, effectively ending the millennium-old Holy Roman Empire. He placed family members on thrones: his brother Joseph in Naples, later Spain, Louis in Holland, Jerome in Westphalia. Britain remained defiant. To cripple its economy, Napoleon launched the Continental System in 1806, a vast blockade prohibiting all trade between continental Europe and Britain. Enforcement proved difficult and caused widespread economic hardship, breeding resentment. When Prussia rashly declared war in 1806, Napoleon crushed its vaunted army in a single day at the twin battles of Jena and Auerstadt, October 14, 1806. He marched triumphantly into Berlin. Turning east against Russia, he fought the bloody, inconclusive Battle of Eylau, February 1807, in a blizzard, before decisively defeating them at Friedland, June 1807. This led to the dramatic meeting on a raft in the middle of the Niemen River and the Treaties of Tilsit, July 1807. Tsar Alexander I of Russia became Napoleon's uneasy ally, agreeing to join the Continental System. Prussia was reduced to a rump state. Napoleon's empire reached its zenith, stretching from the Atlantic to the Russian frontier, with satellite kingdoms and allied states across Europe. However, enforcing the Continental System drew Napoleon into the disastrous Peninsular War, 1808 to 1814. After deposing the Spanish Bourbons and placing his brother Joseph on the throne, Napoleon faced a massive popular uprising, guerrilla warfare, Little War, supported by a British expeditionary force under the future Duke of Wellington. The Spanish ULCER drained French resources and manpower for years. Seeking to tighten the blockade and punish Russia for trading with Britain, Napoleon made the catastrophic decision to invade Russia in 1812. He assembled the largest army Europe had ever seen, the Grande Armée of over 600,000 men from across his empire. The Russians refused to give decisive battle, instead retreating deep into their vast territory, employing a scorched earth policy. Napoleon captured a deserted Moscow in September 1812, after the bloody but indecisive Battle of Borodino. Finding the city useless and unable to force peace, and with the harsh Russian winter setting in early, Napoleon ordered the retreat in October. The retreat became a nightmare. Harassed by Cossacks, decimated by cold, starvation, and disease, the Grande Armée disintegrated. Only a shattered remnant of about 40,000 men crossed back over the Niemen River in December. The disaster shattered Napoleon's aura of invincibility. Sensing weakness, Prussia, Austria, Sweden, and Russia formed the Sixth Coalition. Napoleon rushed back to France and raised new armies, displaying astonishing energy. He won significant victories at Lutzen and Bautzen, May 1813, and Dresden, August 1813. but he was increasingly outnumbered. The decisive turning point came at the Battle of the Nations near Leipzig, October 16, 1813. Facing overwhelming coalition forces, Napoleon's army was defeated after 4 days of brutal fighting, partly due to the defection of his Saxon allies during the battle. Forced to retreat into France, Napoleon fought a brilliant defensive campaign in 1814, but the odds were impossible. Coalition armies entered Paris on March 31, 1814. The French Senate, pressured by the invaders and Napoleon's former Marshal Talleyrand, declared the emperor deposed. On April 6, 1814, Napoleon abdicated unconditionally at Fontainebleau. The victorious coalition restored the Bourbon monarchy under Louis XVIII. Napoleon was exiled to the small Mediterranean island of Elba, granted sovereignty over it. The Bourbon restoration proved deeply unpopular. Louis XIII's attempts to revive aristocratic privileges alienated many. News of discontent and quarrels among the victorious powers at the Congress of Vienna reached Napoleon. Seizing his chance, he escaped Elba on February 26, 1815, landing in southern France on March 1. His march towards Paris became a triumphant procession as soldiers sent to arrest him defected en masse. Louis XVIII fled, and Napoleon entered Paris on March 20, beginning the 100 Days. He promised liberal reforms and peace, but Europe was united against him. Britain, Prussia, Austria, and Russia immediately reformed the Seventh Coalition. Napoleon moved swiftly into Belgium, hoping to defeat the Allied armies under Wellington and Blücher before they could unite. He defeated the Prussians at Ligny on June 16, 1815, but failed to destroy them. Simultaneously, Marshal Ney fought Wellington to a bloody draw at Quatre Bras. 2 days later, on June 18, 1815, near the village of Waterloo, Napoleon faced Wellington's Anglo-Allied army, drawn up on a ridge. The battle raged all day. Napoleon's initial attacks were bloodily repulsed. The crucial moment came in the late afternoon. As Napoleon launched his elite Imperial Guard against Wellington's center, the Prussians, whom Napoleon believed Grouchy's corps was containing, arrived in force on his right flank. Wellington's line held, the Guard recoiled, and the French army collapsed into rout. Waterloo was a decisive, crushing defeat. Napoleon abdicated for the second time on June 22, 1815. Hoping for asylum in Britain, he surrendered to Captain Maitland of HMS Bellerophon. Instead, the British government, determined to prevent any further escapes, exiled him to the remote, windswept island of St. Helena in the South Atlantic. There, under constant guard, Napoleon dictated his memoirs, shaping his legend, until his death from stomach cancer on May 5, 1821. The French Revolution and Napoleon's empire reshaped the world. The revolution's ideals of liberty, equality, and nationalism spread across Europe and beyond, inspiring future revolutions and challenging the old monarchical order. Its excesses, particularly the terror, served as a stark warning. Napoleon, the child of the revolution, became its conqueror and gravedigger. He exported revolutionary reforms like the Napoleonic Code, the abolition of feudalism, and administrative rationalization across Europe, dismantling ancient structures. Yet he also extinguished the revolution's fragile republican spirit, replacing it with imperial autocracy and dynastic ambition. His relentless wars cost millions of lives and devastated Europe, but they also accelerated the rise of national consciousness, particularly in Germany and Italy. The Congress of Vienna, 1814 to 1815, sought to restore the old order, but the genie of revolution and nationalism could not be put back in the bottle. The legacy of these tumultuous decades, the clash of ideals and power, the birth of modern political concepts, the redrawn map of Europe, and the towering, contradictory figure of Napoleon himself continues to echo through history. The volcano that erupted in Paris in 1789 had finally fallen silent, but the landscape it left behind was forever altered. The age of kings had been challenged. The age of nations and ideologies had begun. As the sun set on the emperor's lonely Atlantic prison, the world he had conquered and convulsed embarked on a new, uncertain path. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe and share for more history.